The common problem is, of course, is that our machinery equipment is going rapidly, and the skills, more to the point, the skills to keep them going are there. And in what I've got to show you, particularly in the museum, I think you'll perhaps understand a bit more. In the UK carpet industry, basically there were 4 areas where carpet were produced. In the south of England, Axminster and Wilton. In the Yorkshire industry, around Bradford and Halifax. In Scotland, you are here in Glasgow, in Ayr, Kilmarnock, Dundee, Kirkcaldy. And then, of course, the 4th area was Kidderminster. And I've often been asked many, many times, why did a small market town in the middle of the country become renowned for the manufacture of carpets? It was a one-industry town. And so I'll attempt to explain. This is what my... It comes up. My computer technology is 0, and this has been prepared for. This is a plan of John Docherty's plan of Kidderminster in 1753, and the point is that Kidderminster originated, it was in the Domesday book, it was mentioned as Chiderminster. And so really we do have those early records. Kidderminster is in the valley, and the River Stour, which you hopefully can see, I'm running through this away, runs through the town. And with sheep on the hills, it was very important that a wool-based textile industry would occur, and it did. By the late 1600s, there were 150 master weavers weaving, and they formed themselves into a fraternity, and they controlled 400 handlooms at the time. The popular material was called Kidderminster stuff. It was that stuff that came from Kidderminster. It was a multi-purpose cloth. It was curtain material, it was bedclothes, it was whatever you wanted it to be. And some people put it on the floor. And in that form, it was called fote cloth. F-O-T-E, a cloth for the foot. On the map, you will see the river, you will see Burgh, which was very important. A little tributary that was very important. You will see St Mary's Church, which was the minster of Kidderminster. And you will see what we call carpet halls. You see there are two carpet halls are mentioned. Those carpet halls were in fact the names given on this map, but they were actually loom shops, where it has been mentioned early on, where a group of weavers would get together to weave. There were many loom shops, of course, many carpet halls, but these two happened to be on this map at this particular time. On the caption at the bottom of that particular one, you will notice that there's a spinning wheel. Remember, this was 1753. There was a spinning wheel. There were the bales of yarn or bales of fleece. Can you see the basket of shovels? Can you see carpet? And can you see that Britannia is holding probably a roll of stuff? I mean, I don't know, but it's a good story, isn't it? Okay, next one. In Kidderminster, the houses were built in courts. You could have easily have had an address in Kidderminster, it would be court number 2 or Holland court number 2, and they were built around a courtyard, communal facilities in the yard. But more to the point, some of the looms were in the upper rooms of the houses of the town. It was a cottage industry. The factory by the river. In Kidderminster, the river was lined with what were called factories. They're not factories as we perhaps would know them, and certainly not, but they were places where the dye house was, where the carpet master or the master would live, and he would look after his business. The weaving was done around the town. It was brought to the factory to be measured, and the weave was paid. Next one. The loom shop. Now, this is the loom shop, the carpet hall that we were talking about. And this one actually existed, would you believe it, up until 1923. And in the loom shop, you had the weavers. You could see it's very much like similar to the one that was shown earlier, where the weavers, the looms are against the wall, where near the light, the natural light. If it wasn't natural light, it was candle. Coal. Heating was by coal. Look at the floorboards. And the lady is actually winding, but it's a spinning wheel, isn't it, as well? So she's actually winding the bobbins. So remember, this photograph was taken in 1923. It was in looms like this that the first, in 1735, the first Kidderminster carpet was woven. And I know it's a touchy subject, but the word is that it is called Scotch in this area, and it's called ingrain mainly in America. But as far as I'm aware, the weave was the same. The population in Kidderminster around this time, not that we're talking about 1735, was about 3,000 people. And there were loom shops, the weavers, with the dads, the draw boys, they call them draw boys, child labour, worked in the industry, moms were the spinners, and of course the name spinster, of course, you realise, of course, comes from a spinner of yarn. Next one, please. This is a sketch because in 1825 in Kidderminster, the first jacquards appeared. You know that the Joseph Marie Jacquard in 1801 in Lyon invented the jacquard for cloth looms, but it was adapted for the carpet looms and came in to the carpet looms in 1825. This is a Brussels loom. You can see, well, it's a Wilton or a Brussels loom. It's the same loom except the one is Luton. 5 frames. Look at the 5 Creole frames down. And the jacquard, of course, is on the top. Around this time, 1749, the first Brussels looms came into Kidderminster, and then in the town of Wilton, they learned how to cut the top of the lute pile Brussels to make the velvet top, and this is why Wilton, or this is how Wilton got its name. In 1832, Richard Whiteock of Glasgow invented the tapestry process, and we had it very strongly in Kidderminster. This was a warp printing process where you printed the warps, and when you wove it through, you made it was generally regarded as the cheaper form of carpet, and it was made from a beam. We heard the name beam mentioned earlier. In 1839, I'm telling you this, and you should all know this, but James Templeton and William Quigley invented the chenille process, which was a big business in Kidderminster. We had a lot of chenille looms in Kidderminster. The Staffordshire and Worcestershire Canal joined the River Severn to the River Trent. And this gave the Kidderminster the opportunity to be right in the middle of the country to deliver carpets anywhere in the country through the canal system, which in those days, of course, would have been the motorway of its day. 1772, James Wimby opened up the Staffordshire and Worcestershire Canal. From the ports of Stourport, which is the mouth of the river, or where the River Stour joins the River Severn, down to the docks, Bristol, Exmouth. Okay? If it went the other way, it got into the River Trent, Mersey, Liverpool, Exmouth. Okay. And in this way, Kidderminster built a very, very big export industry. I love this picture because it's colourful and it's got everything, but I've been to a couple of lectures on the Great Exhibition, and if you haven't, believe me, it must have been a marvellous event. But can you see on the left-hand side, all the carpets are hanging there, because the carpet industry in total, everybody, Kidderminster, and Scottish industry, showed at the Great Exhibition of 1851. It was, if you remember, there were 6 million visitors. And I find it remarkable to remember that there were no lighting, there was no electricity hadn't been invented, there was no lighting. It was ran between, I think, May to September, because it was natural light. And I'm told there was no heating either. And there would have been individual oil lamps, I'm sure, but there was no general heating and lighting. But look at the carpets that are there. The hand-woven industry showed their wares at the Great Exhibition. Kidderminster's population at that time was about 20,000. It had grown rapidly from 3,000 from 1735 to 1851 in the growth of the one industries town carpets. This is a picture of Erastus Bigelow, who invented the power loom. He invented the power loom in 1845, and he brought it to the Great Exhibition. And he showed it to all the carpet manufacturers. And after the event, he brought this loom to Kidderminster. And the manufacturers in town were very, very buoyant at the time. They were selling all they could make. And they said, thank you very much, but it's a bit too complicated. He didn't go away. But he didn't go away. In fact, it was seen by John Crossways of Halifax. You remember the name? They bought the loom. And very soon, within 2 years, loomed power looms were coming back into Kidderminster, made in Halifax, said John Crossways. And the loom we have running in our museum is in fact a cross loom. It wasn't made in those days, but it was a bit more modern. It is a cross loom. This is Thompson and Skinner, and he's important to the carpet industry because he was basically the inventor of what we call the weave. We call it Axminster, but it is a weave. It's the name of a town, of course it is, but it is the name, and it's the name of the carpet company in Axminster, but it really is the name of the weave. And he invented the way, power looms for weaving Axminsters, and an Axminster puts an individual tuft. Right? The tufts are individual. He saw what was happening with the hand knotters in Persia and Afghanistan, and he wanted to reproduce that. And in the 1870s, Thompson and Skinner, he came from New York, and Erastus Bigelow, of course, came from Massachusetts. I shouldn't really tell you this, because they're Americans, that's even worse than not coming from this country. But it is a fact that in Kidderminster, a company called Tomkinson and Adam took on his patent and developed commercially what we know as spool Axminster. And I must tell you that William Adam, of course, came from Scotland. He worked for James Templeton, and I think he was poached initially by Brintons, and he came for Chenille, and I think he was poached, but we won't talk too much about that, because for Kidderminster, he was very, very good. And he formed a company with Michael Tomkinson, and their company was called Tomkinson and Adam. And they bought the patent from Thompson and Skinner. And in the Museum of Carpet, we have the original model of the spool Axminster loom that was made by Thompson and Skinner for his patent, to support his patent. It's a little model like this, and it's our pride and joy to see. John Brinton brought another of Thompson and Skinner's designs, and it was what Thompson and Skinner called the nipper press. process, nickel process. And Brinton's invented, or took the process and developed it, and formed what is now known as the gripper loom. So there are two types, there are three types of Axminster: chenille, spool Axminster, and gripper. Next one, please. This is a photograph really taken around 1900, and it does show Kidderminster. You can see the mills sticking up. That was a spinning mill, so if I can say so. It wasn't a weaving mill, but it was a spinning mill. That is one, it still exists. There's a square chimney there. All the other chimneys have gone, and the majority of the buildings that you see on that photograph have gone. Right? And in their place are supermarkets and car parking. Right? Real exciting stuff. But look at it. An industry, one industry, and look at all the chimney pots. I could go on. I'll stop. The population around 1900, 30,000, and still growing in the carpet industry. 20 registered companies. A typical jack-on rotary weaving shed at Carpet Trades in 1923. The noise would have been horrendous. Nobody had got the independence look, and the majority of the people, of course, were deaf. My father was a carpet shooter. He set the looms up, and he wasn't totally deaf, but I had to say everything to him twice. So I used to mumble it first, and then tell him proper when he said, Okay. This is where the lathes become, and this is the chenille in the 1920s, the weft looms of the chenille process. I never saw chenille. It was big in Kidderminster, but I never actually I didn't have the privilege of seeing the chenille. There were still chenille looms when I started in the industry, but they were at other factories, not the factory I worked. But these are the chenille weft looms. Look at the ladies, look at the buns, look at the clothes they're wearing, look at the variety of shuttles, and look at the line shafting driven from the steam engine. Okay, thank you. Right, this is School Axminster, and School Axminster and Carpet Trades again in 1923. There was a series of photographs taken in 1923 and they've become iconic with our industry. School Axminster, you can see, perhaps I don't really do know, but the spool, each of those spools in the chain is a row in the carpet. If you come to the Museum of Carpet, and I hope you do eventually, you will see School Axminster. You can see it working if you catch volunteer weavers coming in at that time. Very labour-intensive process. In Kidderminster, there were probably about 400 of this type of loom in the heyday, which I will come to in a minute. Today, we have the only one left. We have the only one left, not only in the town, but we think we have the only one left in the country. At that width and that type. There were broader looms. But this is what is called a split shot spool. Thank you very much. The wartime came, and I won't spend much time on the war, but Kidderminster was very much affected by the wartime because all the looms were decommissioned and pushed back to the wall, and in its place they made armaments, bullets, guns. We've got a 3-inch mortar bomb in our museum, and as far as we're aware, we don't know if it's been exploded or not, so we try not to drop it just in case. Okay? But the ladies made a remarkable Brinton's carpet. They made 0.8 of a million jerry cans during the war. Okay? The swinging 60s, the after-war boom in the Second World War. The after-war boom really was when I joined the industry, and it was a very, very exciting time. There were 15,000 people working in the carpet industry in Kidderminster. There were 25 registered companies with names that you possibly wouldn't know them all, but Brinton's and carpet trades and carpet manufacturing company. And then was not a very Woodward Grove. They were all very good business. In the workshops, in the factory of the town, you could hear music while you work. You remember that? Music while work? Anybody remember music while you work? Just a few. And then there was a good exchange. And in Kidderminster, the Scottish Society at that time had 200 members. It's disbanded today because there was nobody there. But there was a very big interchange. We mustn't underestimate this, because the technicians came down and it was an interchange, particularly in designers, but with regard to the technicians on the looms, what we call the tuners, not particularly the reelers. Burns Night was particularly well celebrated in Kidderminster. If you were in Kidderminster on Burns Night, you knew that you were in Kidderminster on Burns Night. At the time where this was, the School of Art was very, very popular. There was a large design studio in every company. Right? Every company. It could have been 40 designers. Design was very, very important. And the colourist was the most important one, because he was the one who selected the colour that was going to be in. It says here, this is one of 3 designs in Kidderminster. It sold over 1 million square yards. That's a lot of carpet, really, to be honest, to be woven as well. And it's woven, weaving is not exactly a fast process. Can you see the fleur of the Spanish? Can you go down, so can you see the face? Never mind. Osborne House. We have good designs there. We had the designs, we had the influence of William Morris, Charles Horsey, and Walter Crane, were all featured in the designs. In the companies in those days, there was probably about 2,000 in the larger companies, employees, and it wasn't unusual for the ground dye stuffs to be dyed in a dye vat. And they might be dyeing as much as 2 tons of dye stuff at the same time. I think that might be of interest to you. Cosset, do you remember the name Cosset? It's a name that springs to mind now. It's important to remember that Cosset was a company that set up to make tufted carpet, and it was set up, I believe, to protect the weaving industry in Kidderminster and in Scotland here, because it was placed in Burgh House, and but it was owned jointly by Brinton's, John Crosby Carpet Trades Holdings, the Carpet Manufacturing Company, Templetons of Glasgow, James Templeton of Glasgow, and a half share by Bondworth and Stanford. At the time, in the 1950s and the swinging 60s, in Kidderminster, the companies were Brinton's, Bondworth, Carpet Manufacturing Company, Carpet Trades, Tomkinson's, Adam Carpets, Naylors, Woodward Grosvenors, and Woodward Grosvenors during that time became part of the Guthrie Corporation and also British Carpet, so they were linked very much with Gray's Bear, Victoria Carpets still exist in Kidderminster. They're one of the 5 surviving companies, and they came down from Kirkcaldy in 1899, and they transferred, it is said, they came down by rail. We let this information be known to Marco Portillo, but he chose the Severn Valley Railway and not to talk about Victoria Carpets, because it would have been a good story. Okay. In Scotland, Blackwood Morton, Kilmarnock, William Gray, John Lyle, James Templeton, Stoddards, Henry Windle Stewart in Bonnyridge, James Meikle in Kirkcaldy, Thomas Shepherd and John Dee. The Jute Express was very important to Kidderminster, because the Jute Express came down once a week from Dundee, and it brought all the jute that was needed for this massive production in Kidderminster. This is Stowvale Mill, which was built, or Stowvale Mills, which were built in 1855, and the factory behind has now been demolished. It was demolished in 2007 because this is typical of a Kidderminster factory. Next one. And it was demolished in 2007 again, but this sort of, I've got a mental picture that the whole of the town has been through this phase now, because there are no carpet factories left in the town. Because there was uncontrolled dumping of carpeting into this country, and the carpet industry suffered in general, including in this area. This is our museum. To my knowledge, we have two working rooms. We think we've got the only school accident saloon. We have a rotary room. But to my knowledge, there is no working power rooms in Scotland. Anybody challenging on that one? No, none at all. We have two, and there are 5 companies left in Kidderminster, and only 2 of those are weaving, as in weaving. They're producing, the others are producing carpet, but this is what we call the Thompsons. And so, here we go. I've come to the end of my talk, and that's a great relief to give me signals here. But this is our museum of carpet. If you've noticed, it was the front building of the previous one, grade 2 listed, and it's been preserved. 1855 it was built. We had £2 million from the Heritage Lottery to build the museum. It is a grade 2 listed building. It's owned by the Morrisons, and they have given it to us on a 50-year lease with a peppercorn rent. So whereas we hate all other supermarkets in Kidderminster because they've knocked down our carpet factories, we've got a soft spot for Morrisons. If you can, during the ground is our weaving shed, and during during the next session, you will be able to see some of the looms working that were filmed that were taken at our museum. So sadly, the woven carpet industry is now part of history. But in our heritage, it is our heritage, ladies and gentlemen. And so I would encourage you to get your passports out and travel south, and come and visit us at the Museum of Carpet in Kidderminster. Thank you very much.